Geocache-maniacs.
GeoGearHeads.
Welcome back to GeoGearHeads. This is episode 234, and we're going to be talking today about the geocaching.com search. Unfortunately, my co-host, the bad cop, is not with us tonight because he's got a bunch of running around and stuff to do. But I do have Ben of, we'll call you Rock Chalk's arch nemesis. How's that sound?
Oh, you've heard of him, huh?
Yeah, and you know he didn't have such nice things to say about you when he was on a few.
I don't even know the guy.
Don't know.
Does he work at HQ?
You disavow any knowledge of Rock Chalk.
I hear there's this guy going around claiming that he works at HQ. It's weird. We've been trying to track him down, but no luck yet. If you have an address for him or something, that'd be great because we need to shut that guy down.
So he's impersonating a lackey.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's pretty clear by his behavior, right? Definitely not a lackey.
Yeah. It doesn't seem like he's someone who's into geocaching either.
Yeah, probably not. I don't know. Don't trust him.
Okay, but I am Daryl W4, and we're talking about the geocaching.com search, and unfortunately, I don't think Wet Coaster quite understood what it was when he wrote in on Google+. He's requesting that he wants voice-activated geocaches when he's wandering near Ground Zero and goes, where are you hidden? He wants it to answer from the cache so that he can kind of track it back. Limax really liked that idea and said instead of doing like the Hey Siri or Google thing, it will be Hey Geocache.
That sounds like a great idea. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you remember the April Fool's video a couple of years ago, but my alter ego is Dean F from one of our April Fool's videos, and so I have quite the reputation of not being able to find any caches, and this sounds like something that might work for Dean and for me too. So I'm all for it. I vote yes. We need help building that.
Yeah, that's not what you're actually talking about tonight, though. That's relegated to the labs. But we did talk about the what at the time was called the advanced search back on episode 260.5. It was a special one to announce the release of that advanced search. And that was about a year and a half ago, and a lot has changed since then. So can you kind of talk about what we've seen as new features and such since 18 months or whatever it's been?
Yeah, it is almost that long. Yeah, it's something that we've been not consistently working on every day, but it's been a long-term project, and then we've made a lot of changes since we first released it, and there are a lot of changes still to make. We initially released what is affectionately known as the new search, or unaffectionately known by some folks. We released that to premium members in January of last year, and then it went out to everybody in March of last year, towards the end of March. And as you might imagine, we had a ton of feedback about it, and we were listening to that feedback. We heard a lot of things from people. We even did a survey that almost 10,000 premium members responded to. And since then, we have been trying to add slowly but surely to the search to make it a more powerful tool for people to do the geocaching tasks that they're looking to do, to find the content they're looking for, and then to get outside and find those actual geocaches. So the first group of stuff that we really started tackling was kind of just a group of usability questions. We changed how you could interact with what we call regional searches. We got a lot of feedback that the initial implementation of that was not intuitive, and that's I want to search all caches in Washington State or in Belgium or whatever, a specific region. So we changed a lot of how that worked. We added a lot of suggested searches where you could within the main search box will give you an easy way to search from your home location or from your current location. We started doing type ahead responses where if I start typing in Seattle, it's going to ask me if I want to search Seattle, or that's a bad example. You know, Washington's a good one. It'll say, do you mean Washington, D.C., or do you mean Washington State? So just not necessarily new functionality at first, but just really trying to highlight the functionality that was there. And then from there, we've taken off in a lot of directions that people have said, hey, here's the additional tools we need. The biggest one that we finally got done, and it was a huge back-end change for us, was letting people search with an unlimited radius, search every cache in the world. And that's something that we finally just released a couple months ago. That was a long time coming. When the tool was first released, it had a limit of 30 miles. It was the furthest out you could search. And that was, understandably, for me as a player, it was a limitation that I didn't love. And a lot of people, that was the #1 answer we heard, actually, is, hey, I want to be able to search a larger area. And so we fundamentally re-architected our entire search backend. We built everything, rebuilt everything from the ground up. And now that tool, you literally can search every geocache in our database, up to and including all the geocaches in the world. And then lately, one of our primary focuses has been about, now that you can find these geocaches and it's becoming a more robust tool for just locating the geocaches that you want to, how do you move those along through your process and actually get them to your device? And so in March of this year, we added the ability to select caches there and add them to a bookmark list. And those bookmark lists are now synced to our mobile app. So there's some really fun new workflows. And as a player, I've been using them more and more, where it's kind of like hit the web search, find your geocaches and select a few individual ones, or select all of them, add them to a list, and then walk out the door, fire up the geocaching app, and there's your list there. You can save it offline in the app. Of course, if you're still using, if you use a handheld GPS, you can make a pocket query out of that list. So we have not an ideal pathway yet, but we have a good pathway for GPS users to get those search results to their device too. So, I hope that's a not too long version, but we've done a lot of work to improve it since we released it.
Well, and the impression we got from, I believe it was Sean and Eric back in January last year, is this was more than just that one-page search. This was all about re-engineering the search from the ground up and making it available to more functions at the back end of geocaching.com in the future.
That's absolutely correct. And we've, like I said, we have continued doing that. We had a couple months to rebuild the whole back end of how we search our own data. In the past, for those players who've been around for a while, you will remember, sadly, that we had more instances of the website going down. A little less reliability than there is these days. And one of the reasons, ironically, was due to how we were searching our own geocache data. And so if a lot of people started searching at the same time during higher volume periods during the summer and on weekends, that would have some pretty negative effects on performance and on our ability to keep the site up. And so we have built our way out of that problem, which means, #1, that we have a lot more reliability and less chance for the search traffic to have that kind of effect. And #2, that there are a lot of features we couldn't talk about before that are on the table now, because we have a fundamentally different way of searching our database. So yes, this is kind of a ground up re-architecting of what it's like to find content on geocaching.com.
Yeah, which makes it much more difficult than just if it were a single page.
Yeah, indeed.
Limax in the live Q&A asked if the unlimited searches reach the space station and the moon.
They do. So if you want to try, I call it a little Easter egg. If you go to the search page now and you don't type anything into the box, you don't do anything except just click the little search magnifying glass, that literally will return every geocache in our database. And so the space station cache, oh boy, it's been a while since I checked, but it has to have a place on the geocaching map, and I think it's listed in Kazakhstan, um, if I'm correct. I don't quote me on that. You're gonna have to ask Rockjack about that. He'll make something up. So yes, it does. No geocaches on the moon yet, but that search will indeed return any geocaches that we have in the database now.
Very cool. So I wouldn't imagine you're going to find anything on the moon, though, since there are currently no caches on the moon.
This is true. Yet.
Yet. Well, right now, am I correct that the only way to actually get to the search is through that search box on the front page? And isn't there actually a drop down somewhere that you can get to that search with the additional filters and everything?
Yeah. So a while ago, we realized that a lot of folks, the only thing they were doing on our former geocaching.com homepage was using the little quick search box that was up in the top right, about right here, of the former geocaching.com homepage. And so because it wasn't serving a ton of purpose other than getting people launched into the search and some pretty imagery, we switched so that what was previously the standalone search page is now the homepage as well as the search page. So if you're anywhere on the site and you click the little geocaching.com logo or just geocaching logo, you will land on the search page. You can also go into the header and there's the play menu. And one of the entries under that play drop-down menu is find a geocache. So that's another way to get there too.
But to actually get to the power of it, you do have to go into the add filters, and that's where you can get things like the distance, the multiple cache types, the difficulty terrain, size.
That's true.
Minimum favorite points.
Right. And that's the reason for that is as we were testing through this and as we were determining what to build, one of the challenges, we have to build for a wide swath of different playing types. And there's one set of users who really just care about, hey, I don't need to filter these caches. I just want to go and I want to see all the caches that are in a certain area. And the quickest way to do that is just to type a location into that box, a zip code, a center search around a GC code, a city, a state, whatever it is. And just off you go to see results without doing anything else. And then, like you said, if you really want to start filtering, then there's a little button there that says add filters, and that's where, if you're like me, and it sounds like you, that's where the magic happens, and you can really start to tailor what you're getting as results.
Yeah, and there's a lot of functionality in there. Unfortunately, I don't use it nearly as much as I should, in part because almost every time I want to do a search right then and there, it's for something like attributes, which aren't currently supported. But you are working on a bunch of stuff, and we had some people write in with their requests, including GJH Images. They mailed request small search field for specific geocache to be placed on the main page of geocaching.com. Reason, when given a specific GC number that someone gives me, I only want to see that geocache. Plus, it would give me one less click, not much, but it does add up. I usually go to the old search, then run my GC codes at the site, as it's much faster. I usually run multiple GC codes when I'm looking through some geocaches for challenges. I'm not exactly sure what they're asking. I'm assuming that they basically, if they punch in a GC number, it's going to go right to the GC page rather than to a list.
So interestingly, there's a fork in the road there, and we discovered this early on as we were trying to figure out what to do with GC codes. We discovered there is one group of folks like GJH Images who, if I type it, if they type in a GC code, what they want is just to go straight to that geocache page. And then there's another group of users, and I think possibly influenced by pocket queries, that if they type in a geocache, a GC code, what they want is to center a search around that GC code and see other caches in that area, to use it as a location. And so the very first release of the new search page, if the user just typed in a GC code and hit enter, what it would do is just center a search there and show other caches that were close by. And as GJH points out, that if what you're trying to do is get just to that cache page, you're one click away. Not ideal, but what we figured is that's a decent compromise at start, because if you're in the one group that wants to center a search, we just did that. And if you're in the other group that wants to go to that cache page, it should be the top result on your search. As we continued working on it, we discovered that that wasn't quite hitting the compromise that we wanted to hit. And so now, if you start typing in a GC code in the search box, as you type, if it's a valid GC code, it will drop down two options. One says center a search here, and the other one just says go straight to that. And you can just click on one of those and kind of pick your poison. So I'm not sure if that directly addresses what he's or she is looking for, but we have tried to provide some tools around searching by GC code.
And I hate to admit it, but usually if I have a GC code that I'm going to, I just still do the cord.info/GC code.
I do that too. There's a lot of ways.
Fast. Especially if I'm not already on the geocaching.com site, which usually I'm not, because I'm looking something up that someone texted. Speaking of the pocket queries, though, Shermanator 18 wants to know if it's still in the plans to be able to export a search as a GPX.
So GPX is an interesting one. We've had for a long time, the way that we support GPX, we know is super important on the one hand, that it's a key workflow piece for people who want to get content to handheld GPS devices. And on the other hand, there's some shortfalls to how we're delivering GPX files now. It's been a challenge for us, GPX, and any file download has always been a challenge for us, because we have to either actively work with hardware partners or work around the limits that we have based on hardware partners. So Garmin, Magellan, Delorme, anybody who's making hardware. And so when we, or even GSAC, as another way that you might consume a GPX file, when we in the past have tried to make some updates to GPX files, sometimes what happens is that it ends up not working correctly on the device, which is out of our control. So all that said, again, knowing that getting geocaching content to your handheld device is mission critical, we've been working on some new ways of thinking about that with Garmin especially. We have some cool partnerships with Garmin in the works right now. And some of those will completely skirt around the need for a download, just straight delivering that content to your device without needing that file download in the middle. We do know that that's not the only reason people might need downloads, that GPX is used for GSAC or for other kinds of ways that you might want to post-process it. But on the belief that just getting it to your handheld device is the primary need for that, we're exploring some different ways to tackle that problem right now. But yes, so that was my long answer, and my short answer to drive it home is yes, that is absolutely still in the works, and we're looking at ways to support that better.
Yeah, and Limax says that he's using the GPXs on his Magellan, Garmin, TomTom, GSAC, Cachely, and iCaching.
That's a lot of places.
It is, and that's at least 6 different devices there.
Yep.
But he also, getting away from the search, I guess, actually, he also asked in the live Q&A, I have made pocket queries of some of my lists, and I assume he's talking the bookmark lists again. Mm-hmm. Is the only way to get a GPX file of those to actually make those pocket queries and add it to the queue?
Of a list, I assume.
The bookmark list.
Okay. Yes, right now the answer is yes. The only way to get a GPX file specifically is to add it, to create a pocket query of that and then generate that pocket query and grab the file. But list, we've kind of been, if folks are paying attention, I think they might notice that we've been rallying around lists now as a more important paradigm, and as a hub for managing the content that you want to manage. So we've added better support for lists on the search page. We've added better support for lists in our apps. There's different ways that partner apps can access lists, including, excuse me, including GSAC. And like I said, in this partnership, these fun projects we've been working on with Garmin, we're most certainly looking at ways to deliver lists as content. Again, in a way that probably would skirt the need for a GPX file at all. So long answer again, short answer is yes for now. The best way is to make a pocket query, generate that query, and download it.
All right. And the last one that I actually have from Limax right now is, again, getting away from the actual search.
Mm-hmm.
But he wants to know, well, he wants to make sure that we mention rectangles, being able to search by rectangles.
Mm-hmm.
But he also wants to mention that he found the map by pocket query function,
Mm-hmm.
which will hopefully help him to do the overlaps. He has 21 pocket queries of 1,000 caches to get 14,500 caches.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Looking forward to having more search features to make him a happy information junkie.
Yeah, yeah. One of the interesting things to know, and you know, Limax, send me a message. We're always interested to know, you know, what are you doing with all that data? Not in a bad way. We're just trying to understand, like, what are people's needs? What are the use cases of what you're trying to accomplish? What are the tasks you're looking to do? And right now, what we see quite often is that that there are these advanced tasks and cool tasks that people want to do in terms of really managing a database or manipulating the data in different ways. And I think, as Limax pointed out, that pocket queries and even the new search page, they don't always give the best support for that. And the limitation here is that he's got to make circles and overlapping circles. And so there's some lost efficiency there of 21 pocket queries to get 14,000 caches. So the important thing for us in trying to do better in those cases is just to really understand what it is that people are trying to accomplish, and then after we kind of hear those stories, to draw out the themes and find out what are the top tasks that people are really trying to accomplish. So I'd love to hear more about that. It's you know, that's my habit and my job, is just trying to read between the lines of hearing, okay, here's what you said, and what are you trying to get at there? And rectangles, of course, would certainly be a more optimizable way to get wide swaths of content. So not in our immediate plans, but we've definitely talked about different ways of gathering the data than just a point radius search, which of course makes a circle.
You're right. And one of the problems I have with the circles is when I do a lot of my searches, because I'm right across the Detroit River from Canada, I get all these Canadian caches, which doesn't do me a whole lot of good, since you have to, you know, pay tolls, wait in customs lines. So I don't really want those Canadian ones.
So my friend, on the new search page, one of the things you can do, you can use a region, whether it's Michigan or Canada or whatever. You can use a region either as you want to search all the caches in that region, or you want to use it as a filter and only limit to caches in that region. So for example, you could do a search, a point radius search around wherever you wanted to, and then if you open up the page or the filters modal there, you'll see limit to caches in, and you can put in Michigan, and so that would automatically exclude any caches in Canada from a point radius search. So then you'll get a nice a circle with a bite taken out of it.
Sure, but the problem is I can't get the GPX from that yet.
You could. There's a long way around. You could take those results, add them to a list, and then make a pocket query on that list.
And the list is still limited to the 1,000 caches, correct?
That's correct.
But that list won't auto-update for new caches that are published.
This is true. This is true. It would take a little more active managing of that. So yeah, we're working on better solutions for that, but it's a work in progress.
Yeah, good solutions in progress, but they're not there for what some of us want to do just yet.
Sure. Yep.
You know, I seem to recall that there was a way to do a save search just by bookmarking the URL for that resulting search page.
Yeah, and that's still true. We've gone back and forth about providing an actual interface for saving a set of search parameters, more like pocket queries. And for now, that's still not done. But you're absolutely right that the way those searches work, the entire set of parameters, whether it's sorting or filters, whatever it is all stuck right there in the URL. And so if you want, you can just bookmark one of those, and that will serve as, if you just revisit that bookmark from time to time, that would serve as a live updating kind of search that you could revisit as often as you wanted.
Now, Limax asked in a live Q&A again, how small do those regions go? Just to the state level, or is it to something like a county level?
Right now, it is first and second level administrative regions, so it's countries and states or provinces or whatever the state equivalent is. We don't have states in every country. If you've ever hidden a cache, it's the same list of countries and states that you can specify when you're hiding a cache. So no counties right now.
Yeah, at least not yet. We'll put it on the list of stuff we would like to see. But
for sure.
Boy, does that seem like it'd be tough to do for every country.
Yeah, that's one of those where that's a lot of data. It's possible. And we have one of the cool things actually about the new search backend that I was mentioning earlier is for any of you techie types out there, what we did is we used a search platform called Elasticsearch. And Elasticsearch has much better support than our previous search infrastructure for structuring geospatial searches. And so although intellectually that does seem kind of intimidating, it may not be that as much of a challenge as it might have been before to specify by a county level or a city level. And that's something that we need to look into.
And then he also wanted to know if lists versus bookmark lists was discussed. And as far as I know, it's the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's just a terminology question. If it is just terminology, we have been tending more towards lists for now, just trying to keep it simple. Over time, we want to winnow down and just have one type of list. We've had a lot in the past. We've had bookmark lists and watch lists and ignore lists, and the old app had offline lists. And over time, we tended to see a lot of confusion about where different types of lists lived. And so what we've all known and loved as bookmark lists has become the backbone of what we're just talking about as internally as lists now. And some of the features now just mention lists. And that's kind of where we want to rally around and simplify.
Well, and if I remember, the bookmark and ignore lists or the ignore and the watch list were really just bookmark lists, but flagged differently in the system.
Yeah, that is true of ignore lists. They're a special species of bookmark lists. Watch lists are actually older, and they're a little bit different. So we're not, nothing's going to go away overnight. We're not getting rid of any functionality right away, but over time, we're just trying to be thoughtful and try and figure out how to make the ecosystem of how you manage groups of geocaches a little more simple.
Well, let's get into maybe some of the features that we know are on the horizon that you might be able to share.
Well, one of the things we're really excited about right now is as I was saying, these kind of new partnerships with Garmin. We One of our development managers and I started some phone calls with Garmin. I asked Brian, "Hey, set me up with somebody at Garmin. I want to talk to one of their product managers and figure out some better ways to interface with handheld devices." And in the last 5 years or so, if anybody's paying attention, the market for handheld GPS devices has shifted dramatically. Magellan exited that market. DeLorme was purchased by Garmin. There's a few smaller players. Rand McNally left. So we know there are a lot of legacy devices out there, but in terms of new development and in terms of market share, Garmin is by a long shot the biggest player. And so as we were just investigating how do we better support our users with handheld devices, Garmin was obviously the best first choice partner to look at. And so we've had a series of phone calls with them over the last year, and we're getting close to working on starting development on some new ways to deliver geocaching content to Garmin devices. That will be, I hope, music to the ears of folks who used to rely on the Send to GPS and the Garmin Communicator plugin. I don't know how familiar you or your listeners are with that, but the Send to GPS functionality that we have on some places on the website was based on browser plugins, and those modern browsers have discontinued support for that kind of plugin. And so we have less, the Send to GPS plugins are not working great right now. So we're looking at better ways to do that.
Well, Limax actually had a question. You mentioned that Garmin had exited the market, and they are still selling the Explorers, but he was wondering if the Explorers are no longer being made and maybe even not supported.
That's my understanding. And Magellan, Garmin is still very much there. I check my facts. Please don't quote me on this. But I am pretty sure that Magellan has shut down their handheld GPS, and they're no longer making Explorers, Demus.
Well, the Explorers are still listed on the site and do have the same models they've had for years.
Yeah.
And I know that they were still available a little while ago because they keep showing up in my searches at Amazon.
Yeah. Well, I think it's not something they're actively developing anymore.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything in a long time as far as new units go. So I wouldn't be surprised if they've discontinued the development. Now, your arch enemy is in the live Q&A too, and wants to know if you're related to the former Geocacher of the Month, Dean F., who holds the record for most DNFs. You look an awful like him.
You know it. That guy's a good guy, Dean F. He's a classic. If you or your listeners have not checked out the geocaching YouTube channel, I think you'll find that one of the best videos there involves a certain Dean F. It's a good one.
All right, getting back to the new features. We were talking about the new files and stuff, or the new support for Garmin. You know, and one of the things maybe you can pass along is I always get the question about how to send a GPX is what most people are asking for, but even a single, that just would take forever over like Bluetooth. But just even a single cache, I mean, it would be so awesome. You get that push notification for a new cache publish and just be able to go and send that right from the phone to the handhelds.
Yeah. I agree. That would be awesome. And honestly, like I am not familiar enough, I haven't explored enough like what it would take to do that. But immediately where my mind goes is we're talking about third-party hardware, and there's always some challenges, and it's like building the Intercontinental Railroad. Is you have to meet in the middle, and that's what we're working on with Garmin right now. But any kind of feature like that, where it's our software and say Apple hardware, your phone or an Android phone, Samsung or whatever, and then a Garmin device. There's a lot of moving parts there, and I'm sure it's possible, but it also gets a lot more challenging to execute on something like that.
Well, and something like Bluetooth transfer is not very quick.
Yeah,
Even transferring 500 caches in a GPX would take, my guess, at least half an hour.
yeah. I make no claims to be an expert on that.
Yeah. So yeah, I can see the problems, but even just that one or two
Yeah,
caches would be awesome.
yeah. Well, I keep your eye out on Garmin. They have some new things coming out that I think are going to be interesting to people and may have um, some ability to do that in a different way.
But it's outside of your jurisdiction.
It is. I'm not sure what I can say here or not, but like I said, we're working on some fun stuff with Garmin, and I think very soon, if you're paying attention to Garmin, you'll see some new fun things from them.
Excellent. I'm always looking forward to new fun things on the handheld market because
Yeah.
even though I don't use my Garmin's anymore, or Magellan's or DeLorme's,
Hmm.
I really, really want to, and it's just I want that connection to the phone because it's that live instant
Yeah.
updating that makes the phone such a great caching tool.
Absolutely. I'm the same way. I mean, um, my wife and I have an Oregon 450 still. It's been beat around forever. I can't count how many times I've dropped it. The button is falling apart, the power button, and I still love it and use it to death. And I haven't bought the 550 or the 650 or the Montana, any of those other ones, because this 450 has still been chugging along, and there hasn't been anything that excited me enough to say like, okay, I'll spend a few $100 on that. But again, I think there are some new things. I know that I, as a player, have been intrigued with what I've been hearing and saying like, hey, maybe it's going to be time to buy a new piece of hardware.
Now, G Nyes in the live Q&A asked a question that we probably can't answer, but we can maybe speculate. Would that be in a new GPSR or software updates?
Well, I think I
And you're
probably just dropped a few hints on that in terms of what I know.
well,
Um,
I'm sure that you're not going to be able to do hardware upgrades like the Bluetooth connectivity can't be
yeah,
updated.
it,
But you know,
yeah, yeah. As you know, they refresh their units every so often. There's software updates all the time, and then there are new units that come out every so often. Um, and and the last round of the Oregons, the 650s, I don't know. It's been a couple years they've been out. I couldn't say
I
honestly.
want to say it's about 20 months or so, and then they came out with the touchscreen version of the E-Trex a
Right,
little over
right.
a year ago. So
Yeah.
their units are long in tooth.
Well, I think you will be seeing some more soon.
And Limax says that he loves his Magellan. The 10,000 cache limit is his only thing that doesn't make him happy. But yeah, you'll find a lot of the cachers who are still tied to those older units that they've
Totally.
used and loved so well.
Yeah, my first GPS, the GPS that we started geocaching with was an Explorist 200, I think. It had no base maps. It had no native support for geocaching. Uh, it may have just been user error, but as far as I could figure out, it didn't even support GPX files. So I had to get acquainted with GPS Babel. I don't know if you've ever used
Mm.
that to convert. Um, and man, yeah, we downloaded GPX files from the website and converted them to whatever that Explorist would take, and had to use their proprietary cable. So
Sure. Well, it
that
wasn't until the org or the Colorado series that
yeah,
GPS has started natively supporting the GPX file,
yeah.
and you always had to go through some intermediary. But I had I can't remember which version of the Explorer was, but they had this cool Windows app that you'd feed it a GPX file, and it would load in the
Hmm.
icons and everything, and show up on
Hmm.
the map, give you some extra functions. The only trouble was it wouldn't let you uh, remove or even mark that they were found, if I remember correctly. It would still
Yeah.
appear on the list and on the map, so that was
Yep.
a little bit annoying.
Yeah. That Explorist that we had, it didn't even have any. any specific geocaching functionality. All you could do is essentially, you could either, I see Limax says now that he was hand entering caches, and I certainly did that too. Or you could go through this elaborate routine of getting a GPX and converting the file. But it was tough.
Sure. Well, and GPS Babel is the back end of GSAC that allows it to talk with the GPSRs. So that's, that's still something that a lot of people are using on a daily basis.
Yep.
All right. So is there anything else that's coming that we can look forward to?
The other big and long-term part for us is right now, there's you run the search, you apply filters, you don't, you sort or you don't, and then it's a follow-on action to see those caches on the map. And if I know, I'm going to assume a lot of folks are like me, and what you want is just to see those geocaches on the map. I process by maps. I think that's why one of the reasons that I love geocaching so much is because I just like looking at maps and looking at things on maps. And so the state of the search now has always been, it was from the outset intended to be kind of like this step along the path to providing those tools natively on the map and doing it in a more robust fashion than we ever have before. Our back-end search architecture that I keep mentioning, that was one of the limits of what we could provide before. And the kind of map functionality that we always wanted to do, we were pretty hamstrung. And when I would sit and make wish lists with our developers, they go like, "Good idea, we can't do it. Good idea, we can't do that. Good idea." And so I said, "Okay, what are we going to do?" And we, not I say I, but a lot of us were saying, and the team of developers that I work with are outstanding. I love them to death. And we eventually had enough conversations like that where we said, we just need to rebuild the entire back end of it. That's done now, and the main way that manifests itself to users right now, I don't know if people can see, but that search got faster for one thing. Most of the searches are running about twice as fast as they were before, but we can also handle much more load against that, against the new architecture, and much bigger searches. So all of that is paving the way to do searches in cooler ways. And to me, the coolest way is to be searching that live against a map. So that's that will likely be, a series of smaller projects. That's not going to happen in one huge jump, but that is where I desperately want to take it.
Yeah, Limax agrees that maps are cool, but it sounds, if I'm reading kind of between the lines of what you're saying, like we're going to see something maybe more like the caches along a route coming in the new search.
I don't know that caches along a route would be the immediate first step. I mean, that's definitely something, again, in the spirit of just trying to kind of unify the tools and make them work together more simply. That's definitely something we've talked about, is that once you can execute cool searches and filtering directly against the map, the next thing you want to do is define a route, or maybe even like freehand a shape, rectangles, triangles, whatever you want. You can search by pentagons or pentagrams if you'd like, if that's your thing. So the first step is just kind of like taking this V1 of the new search that we built and turning it into V2, which would be including a map right away. We have a lot of challenges around maps. Maps are so core to what we do, and we're constantly reevaluating both providers and infrastructure around how we serve up maps. So that would be step one, and then I think the steps after that are kind of like what we did on the current search, which is to say, first provide the tool and then start to build out the tool and add different bits of functionality. And I think caches along a route, your example, would fall into that second category of like get the map search working really well, and then start to really provide awesome tools on top of that.
Very good. Anything else that you want to share before we take off?
Well, those talking caches, we're going to get working on that too. The caches that announce where they are.
I like that idea. It sounds like a really great V2 of that product would be some kind of puzzle cache where you have to answer the questions.
This is good. To me, where my head goes with the V2 is caches that come to you. You could just wait on the cache, and then the cache
So
is
going
slowly,
beyond
yes,
the talking caches,
yes,
you're looking for like autonomous caches.
walking caches, right? And you can just summon them to you, and then we can have cache summoner ranks.
So kind of like the reinstatement of moving caches, but the caches update their location on the fly.
There you go.
I like this plan.
Then we're going to have to find ways tools to bring those caches to you. What is it going to take? I don't know. This is a whole new business model.
Yeah, I like this. Cache delivery services.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much, Ben. If anyone wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way?
I think you said you'd provide a link to the player profile that I share with my wife, right?
Right.
Yeah. So
It'll
that's
be in the show notes.
Yep. So click that, drop me an email, send me a message through the message center, and I will do my best to get back to you.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure getting to know a little bit more about the search.
Thanks for talking with me. It was a lot of fun.
And we have some more great shows coming up. We've got our next randomized show next week with a ton of information in there, so make sure to tune in live for that one. Then on July 7th, Lullaby for You is going to join us to talk about some of the awesome caches that hider puts out. Then on the 14th, we're going to be talking once again with Ben's arch rival for geocaching.com guidelines number 3. So look for that one to have lots of information about the new guidelines for the challenge caches. And check the Cacheamaniacs website at cacheamaniacs.com for more on the GeoGearHeads, including show notes for this and all of our episodes. We love hearing from our listeners, so leave us feedback by emailing geogearheads@cacheamaniacs.com or through social media. Your support helps keep the Cacheamaniacs shows coming. Please consider becoming a patron through the link on our website to support the Cacheamaniacs shows. GeoGearHeads is produced by Chris Offenauer and Daryl Wanberg. This show is copyright 2016 by Daryl Wanberg. All rights reserved.